Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me today is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Fear.
Ooh,
Um,
spooky.
all right, I'm going to open up with what I think about this because at first I thought it was kind of boring. All right, it makes people afraid, run away. That doesn't seem particularly useful because unless you've got something in particular you want them to run into, like a trap or fire or something, but no, they won't even do that, I don't think. Um but the interesting part about it for me is that they drop all their stuff. So if they are dependent on the weapons they're using to kill you, then you can just grab them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
For a spell that, like, its name suggests that it's just a condition, this spell is so much more than just the frightened condition.
Okay.
Fear is, like, you just highlighted what I think is one of the coolest elements of the spell, is that it also just disarms them all. Whatever gets fails the saving throw just drops what they're holding, which means if you're just here to, like, smash and grab and steal a bunch of garbage, you can just run to a room full of merchants, fear them, grab the money, and run. Right? And that's a use case for this. It's a real use case for this. Beyond that, though, like, as a whole, the conditions this is imposing, the forced actions is great. And while, yes, they do often run through fire to get away from this, it does say safest available. That means if there is no safe available route, they will take whatever the least damaging one is, which is pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to say I don't think there's going to be a lot of cases where a fire is the least damaging place to run to.
And, like, it does say unless there is nowhere to move, which means I would interpret that as a DM. A cliff is a end of movement. You can't move off of a cliff, despite the fact that, by technically speaking, they can jump and then just keep going. Just also,
well, no, distance. You can, but you don't.
Sure.
In the same case, I would rule that our hearth, maybe a couple of feet back from the farthest point of this wall surrounding it, but that doesn't mean they're going to be crawling in there into the fire.
Sure, but it does mean, right, if there is no other way out, if someone else casts the wall of fire and you cast fear, they will run through the wall of fire. So that is something will happen with this. The moment they get through it, granted, they can start making saves to stop running away. But they will you can use this spell in a means of forcing movement. Even if you can make sure there's no other safe routes out, they will move in unsafe spaces. And that's, I think, a notable part of the spell.
A wall of fire, that can be a ring around you, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're in close quarters and if they got to run through it, they don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's something.
I think it's I should probably go over everything the spell does, because it does a surprising amount in a small amount of text.
Okay.
So it's a 30-foot cone that, like you suggested, makes everyone drop all of what they're holding if they fail the save, which is super interesting. Second thing it does is it frightens them. And the frightened condition is actually like 3 nested conditions in one. So a frightened creature has disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls while it can see the creature it's frightened of. And it also can't willingly move closer to it, which is neat. It means that with them dashing away, they physically cannot move anywhere that isn't laterally or further away from you. So there's no way that they can, like, try and keep coming back at you. They have to run away from you. Additionally, the frightened creature, like, because it interacts with line of sight in this way, if you have long distances of sight, they will not get repeated saves until they can't see you anymore. Because it says, if the creature ends its turn in a location where it doesn't have line of sight of you, then it makes the subsequent save to end the effect of the spell, which means the spell circumstantially can be a very powerful means of removing creatures for a 3rd level slot, and a lot of creatures at that. 30-foot cone is very large, and you have the conceivable ability to get everything in that area, or most things in that area, removed from a fight for 4 or 5 rounds if you're in wide open spaces. And that can be absurd. This spell can end encounters on its own, which is cool.
That's a lot of things I never considered. I looked at the spell description and said, ooh, they drop stuff. I can grab it.
Honestly, I think I almost entirely overlooked that, Bob, and I do think that's a really relevant part of the spell, right? not only does it frighten things and get them away from you and grant them a disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks being conceivably very large depending on what environments you're in, it also means you can now just, like, if you manage to successfully frighten the fire giant, the barbarian can go grab their sword, unwieldily handle it, and just have that now. That's theirs. They earned that fire giant's greatsword by not being frightened. Another interesting implication of the spell is that you don't get to pick who in the cone is affected. It affects everything in the cone, which means if your buddies are in there and you want to use this because it is a cone from you, you have to weigh the downside of potentially fearing your allies or getting less creatures in all at the time. And I think that's neat. I'm always a big fan of spells that ask complicated and hard questions, and this one definitely does that.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Sam score?
Oh, sure. I actually think this is probably a 3 or a 4. I'll go with, I think I'm being too generous today. I'm going to go with 3. This spell is good. This spell will have encounters where it is powerful. This kind of spell will have encounters where it'll single-handedly kind of just destroy an entire DM's plan. There will also be times where you're against fear-immune things. There will be times when you're against things that the frighten ends the round after, and it was a round of force movement, which is good. Now, you know what? I have to give this a 4. I've convinced myself I have to give this a 4. Yeah, this condition is so powerful. You're forcing dashes so often. It hits so many creatures. It encourages interesting positioning. This is an underrated spell. I think more people should try and cast Fear. This spell is great.
I agree with you. I was thinking 2 because I don't know. I didn't feel it's like third level spell. The other options available, but no, you've convinced me. This one's a lot more powerful than it appears on the surface.
Yeah, they have to use their actions to dash. They can't even shoot at you. If you make the squad of the battalion of ranged characters run away, they're spending their action to dash, and that is what they spent their action on. They're not using it to do anything else.
Yeah, and they also drop their bows.
Yeah, that's another. They can't even shoot you. They no longer are holding their bows. Perfect example. Yeah, this spell is sweet. It's not that exciting or not that complicated, but I think it's pretty exciting. It has a lot of niche little things. There are lots of small little upsides to it that just combine to be a really cool effect.
All right. Yeah, we're both happily surprised with this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's Fear, everyone. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. See you in the future. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, our full review of the spell, and other fun things.